beginnings of lessons learned last night by guys like Kyrie. And I know there's some people that say, well, he didn't pass the ball, but, and perhaps the coach and LeBron and those guys are taking the bullets for him. But when the coach stands up and tells you that the game plan was attack, 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 and that he was given the green light last night to play that way, then that makes you a little less critical of it. I understand the point. I see you. But when they tell you that was the way they did it, then you have to go, okay, then maybe the plan you came up with was busted. But if the kid was doing what he was being instructed to do, then we can't hold that against him. That being said, there's a lot of things being done. Where I'm going at is I saw the kid playing some defense again. There was the one where he went for a steal, didn't come close, but he ended up spread eagle on the floor. And as he was getting up, he had this look on his face like, man, that's what it's like to play defense for just one play so hard that you completely exhaust yourself, and you have to do that on every play, every game. That's what you do when you want to be at the level you want to be at, man. And those are the things that it's going to take these guys time to learn, not just how to pass the ball to each other, how to play together, but some of these guys like Kyrie, and I'm going to put Kevin Love there too, because he's been saved by his offense in the early part of the season, being halfway decent, but he's got the defensive side too. He lays guys to the hoops as well, just because he gobbles some boards. Those guys will learn that extra effort that it takes. But that was what was bugging me when I said the stuff about LeBron and the way him and David Blatt went about it in the Portland game is not leading by example. I just think the way they chose, and LeBron said as much yesterday, that they learned a little bit about the way to go about teaching the lessons that they want to teach too, because standing around passively may not be the best way, even though it's an effective way. Because I know I talked to a lot of you guys off the air, and yesterday I had made the mention of the Bulls, and I said, well, Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan didn't exactly say, well, Michael, stand around out there and let those guys learn for themselves. He said, I'm going to win these games and try to get these guys to learn at the same time. But that being said, let me be fair, because I will say that Michael Jordan's one of the athletes that I'd say I know the most about in and out. I mean, he's a guy that I've studied. I've read dozens of autobiographies and biographies and chronicles and stories, and Phil Jackson and the other guys on the team, the chronicles of the days of what he did. So, I mean, I have a pretty good appreciation for the process that went about becoming Michael Jordan. And he did have a nasty side. Trust me, we saw what he did to Chalmers. I mean, you've seen B.J. Armstrong, it's Kerr. They got in a fist fight. There's a lot of situations where he shamed teammates, Michael Jordan did, where he gave him the silent treatment. He phased them out on the court. A lot of different things. He definitely had his ways of being not a nice guy to guys that he wanted to teach a lesson to. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that some of that stuff. There's a difference during the 48 minutes that we're out on the court. So that was it. But LeBron said as much yesterday, so I got to give him credit that maybe they realized it as well. But there was a difference in basically from the second quarter on, but really in the second half yesterday, in defensively, some of the work that they put in. And I just thought, even though they lost at the end, I thought that the second half gave me some hope. Not that I need hope. I'm not sitting here panicking, but that some of these lessons, it's one thing to say it's going to take a while to learn lessons, but if you teach a lesson every day and nobody's learning it, then you're not getting any better. You're just teaching a lesson every day that nobody's paying attention to. So you got to start seeing the little things, even if they're not all there. And I saw some of that last night. Those cats, and I mean Love, Irving, Waiters, they are going to have to learn what really playing defense is all about, and it means exhausting yourself at every moment, and then how to capture your wind back and go back at it. It's that level that they haven't had to play at before. That said, I did offensively. I liked how LeBron and Kyrie brought the team back in the second half yesterday, driving to the hoop. That was what I meant. David Blatt said, hey, we thought this team, we attack off the dribble and drive to the hoop, and we thought that was the way to go. But no matter what the game plan was not pass the ball, don't make assists. 6 assists in the entire game last night. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Now, I will say that there should have been more. It seemed a lot of the assisted passes did not go in, and it didn't seem to me that there, and look, this is what it is, man. They shot 40% last night, but there were bunnies that weren't going in. There were just a lot of missed easy shots by LeBron, by other guys, by everybody. I mean, this is nobody gets the blame. Everybody gets the blame. But there was a lot of close shots missed, a lot of layup type, putbacks that were missed there that I'm like, man. So I think that skews it a little bit, the percentage of the assists. But let's look at that. She's talking about shooting. Kevin Love last night, a bit covered by the fact that he dropped 9 at the foul line, because he was 2 of 10, 1 of 5 from 3. 8 boards. I mean, that's the thing. When you have the 3-point shooters, you're going to have guys that fall in love with it. They were all of them took 3. LeBron, Kyrie, Kevin Love all shot 3-pointers last night, or 5 3-pointers last night. But Kyrie shot 50%, 34 points, no assists. But again, if that is what they say, I mean, clearly that's the plan of attack last night. LeBron, 8 of 18, still sub 500. But when you're 0-3 from the other forward position there, because they switched the lineup, which we hadn't talked to yet. Dion Waiters switches down to the bench. You could see the difference in his aggression already. I don't know how Dion's going to his attitude's he's gonna have to adjust to this again. Clearly there's gonna be some issues here. A passive Dion Waiters coming off the bench. He only played 13 minutes last night, only tried 4 shots, was 1 of 4. You could see a difference. He'll get to it, but clearly he can't be the happiest, as we know about this. I like him coming off the bench because that grouping just wasn't fitting right together, and he brings such instant offense when he wants to coming off the bench. They only went 8 deep last night in the rotations, but you literally only got offensive contributions from 6 of those 8. 0 points in 24 minutes from Shawn Marion. 0 points in 22 minutes from Mike Miller. Mike Miller and Shawn Marion combined to only shoot 4 shot attempts during that game last night. Tristan Thompson, he's never much to be counted on for offense. He gave you 8 points and 5 boards off the bench, but that was it. That was everybody that played there. The rest of the team did not get in any minutes last night. We saw Joe Harris before, didn't see any of him, still none of James Jones. And again, you can't have that. You cannot have that kind of offensive breakdown like that, and so there's issues, but defensively is where it boils down to. These guys defensively have to play more like they did in the second half, more like they did at times against Chicago. I mean, and that'll come. That's what they're learning there. And then, of course, the final play of the game looked like it was heading to overtime last night. LeBron slips. They said he was tripped. I don't know, whatever. LeBron ends up on the floor. Hayward comes off the screen. Tristan's too far back, makes the jumper there to end the game. Cavaliers a loser at the buzzer last night, 102-100. Good things you can take out of it. They come away. They're 1-3. Get a day off here before you get ready for the final game of this road trip before they come back home. They're back home Monday, the Pelicans, Anthony Davis. And, man, we've seen what he's done. Looking at real quick early on, not just the Cavs. And please don't be one of those people. Just because you don't go crazy over the start doesn't mean as well you go, man, I'd like to see these guys get it together. And they will. But Cavs are 1-3, 4 games into an 82-game season. But looking around early on in the East, 3 teams tied at the top, 4-1, Chicago, Washington, Toronto. All teams, Washington and Toronto, 2 teams that we talked about as those teams, like the Cavs, looking to make that step up to the upper tier of the Eastern Conference. Chicago, right where we thought they'd be. Again, it's 5 games in for those teams. The only undefeated teams left, all in the West, and there's 3 of them out there. You got Memphis, Houston, and the Warriors, all without a loss so far on the early part of the season. I like Memphis. I've always liked Memphis. Problem is every time they're up and down. It looks like they got that window where, man, Memphis, remember a few years ago, you thought maybe Memphis goes the route of Oklahoma City. Those 2 teams went in divergent directions. And then every time I bank on Memphis coming strong, they let me down. But here, an early start for them. Houston as well, good start for them. You've seen what they've done with Harden and Howard and that grouping that they've got there. Anthony Davis, as I mentioned, he's leading the league in rebounding for the Pelicans, who come to town on Monday, and he's leading the league in blocks as well. Him and Roy Hibbert both averaging 4 blocks a game, double the next guys that are close. Everybody else underneath him's at 2.5 in that area. Kobe Bryant, you know what? By the way, I don't find any lack of coincidence in the fact that Kobe Bryant's the leading scorer in the league, and the Lakers are 0-5 and counting and continue. That's going to be a 20-win traveling circus there. Come see Kobe Bryant make his stop in your town. They got some problems over there with the Lakers, but early on, some good basketball in the first couple weeks of the season. It's going to be a lot of fun this year. And again, look, with the Cavs, it is what it is, man. A lot of work left to be done. I did like more the way they attacked it last night. Looking back after the game, to what LeBron was saying, I believe they realized that there's ways to be stubborn, to say, hey, Kyrie, Dion, if you want to do it your way, do it your way. But there's a fine line between doing it. I just thought the way they went about it in that Portland game is wrong, period. It just doesn't set the right tone or tenor for anything, and it makes it too easy if I'm another player, and even if I'm another high-level, as far as star power player, if I'm Kyrie or Kevin Love, you don't want to be able to come back. What is the old saying? When the top guy does it, when the top guy buys in, nobody can say nothing. Nobody can, when is a bad example, but when your top guy takes out the garbage, nobody can complain about taking out the garbage. When the owner of the company takes out the garbage, nobody can complain about being asked to take out the garbage. So that's my thing, is that there is that example thing. And I just think, man, when it's, well, I'm being like this, but it's for your own good, there's a fine line to that people don't like, and I just didn't think that was the right way to go about it. More like what they did last night. You still running. I get it. LeBron doesn't want the offense to run through him. I get that, but there's going to be times where you're still going to have to, and still not let these guys feel like you're just there to bail them out, because when you need them in the stretch, they've got to be able to do it. Everybody's got to be able to stand on their own legs, so I get that part of it. All right, anyways, break for the Cavs here before they finish things up. No, real quick, before we get out of here, guys, getting close to wrapping things up, did you see the story out of Baltimore? Because I remember talking about this story years ago, but not this story, about the lady that was the oldest cheerleader in the NFL. I mean, and she was very, very attractive for her age. She was nearly 40 years old. Made the Ravens cheerleading squad. 38 years old is what she was when she became the oldest cheerleader in the NFL. She was there for a couple of years, and then she became the coach of the cheerleading squad for, I think, 5 or 6 more years after that. And anyways, it was a big story a few years ago. And now she's in the news as apparently she's now 47 years old and still looks like she could go out there and be on the cheerleading squad right now. But she's arrested with being accused of having a relationship with a 15-year-old boy. And you know what? It's so easy, and I make the mistake of making these jokes too, because it's easy as a guy to go, where were these teachers? Where were these cheerleaders when I was that age? Because they didn't exist. But the father and the parent side of me says, you flip that story around and you just change the male and the female aspect of the victim and the accuser, and you can't make that joke anymore. So I'm not going to be the guy to go on the air, although I'm just saying the guy part of me says, hey, where was that? But reality is that you're still talking about a 50-year-old woman and a 15-year-old boy. But man, story coming. Yeah, you should read the details of it. It's nuts. Instagram. Stay away from Instagram. That's where it happened. But anyways, Rensa, apparently she went out and took him to a vacation home, a weekend over Labor Day, and ended up having a party. And there's the other thing, too. I guess this doesn't matter, because if you're going to go out there and do it, then I guess there's no level of stupidity that comes with it. But you're going to do that. You throw parties for high school kids, you buy them alcohol, and you liquor them up. You don't think pictures are taken and stories are told of these things? Like, I don't know. Anyways, so she's going back in court in a couple of weeks here for this one. She's being charged with third-degree rape, unlawful sexual conduct, in distributing alcohol to a minor, several other charges as well. But crazy story coming out of Baltimore there. I just remember the only reason I even noticed, I was like, hey, I remember talking about her when it happened, because the story was, here's this mom, she's 38, 39 years old. She's the cheerleader of the Baltimore Ravens and so on and so forth. Nutty story there. All right, guys, you know what it is. Tonight, Browns, Bengals, Primetime. It's on the NFL Network. It's on here locally. I believe it's on CBS or whatever here, local affiliate. But it's tonight.